Good morning, everybody. In a pretty dull, well, I shouldn't say totally dull. We had like a mild hurricane down here, knocked the power out for a long time, but the market's been a little dull, quiet in the face of this resistance after a topping tail, a little minor topping tail. The best reversal bars are range expansion bars, which means they're bigger than the ones that preceded it, where they travel up and come back down again. And buyers lose control after a little bit of an extended run. That hasn't happened. And a little dip under yesterday's bar. Buyer stepped up there. I mean, it was just a little pullback there near that pivot. And it was just this little sideways range that's going on here. So where are prices? Well, near the top of the range, near that pivot that you can see on the hourly chart. So sideways. And if it can clear this high, I mean, the way it's acting, even with this unfilled gap down below, it's creating. Right? This is the concept of creating support, where it makes a pivot, and then that pivot gets retested successfully, and prices come back up. Now it's still in a little tight range. I am a little concerned of a breakout failure. Prices would break out of here and come back in again. That totally within the realm of possibilities after, an extended run like that in an area of resistance. Uh, but it's holiday time. Can you believe it? Thanksgiving next week. But I remember many Thanksgivings, the markets go down into the holiday, and then the day before and day after are pretty good bullish days. So we'll see. I mean, that might not be a bad situation coming down here, shaking things up a little bit, and then a rally back up to the highs. But right now it's just sideways, boring, chop, back and forth, back and forth, and we'll see what today brings. Things came in a little bit here after some number. I think it was whatever it was. Housing starts, building permits, and looks like they were a little better than what was anticipated. Not a big deal. And building permits month to month, there was a big jump. The previous month was down 4.5%. And this one was 1.5% positive. Kind of weird. Anyway, this time of year. All right. So been running in place for a few days now. And let's take a peek at the futures. It's the same thing, really going nowhere here pre-market, but you see the sideways price action. The wide range bar, right? Wide range bars always create price voids because how fast they move. The next support is down here, breaking below this 4,500 level on the futures. Should work its way down here. SPY 60 more of a rectangle? I would say, yeah. It's got, pivot lows and pivot highs. Just duplicate this and more of a rectangle. When you say more of, I guess if you were to say versus some type of a wedge, there's no wedge, back here, lower highs and now it's up where it is, you know, it's just chopping sideways. It's chopping sideways. Yeah. So a little backing off at the pivot there a little while ago, but one red bar doesn't change a trend. If we got another higher low right here, but if it was to violate that pivot, the next one isn't far off. So it's still top of the range, bottom of the range. No big deal. Um, SPX, obviously nothing got touched yesterday. When the price is going nowhere, the top strike and these things move around. But last I looked, uh, I came on here, even 45.50, which is, I just changed $1.05 to $1.10, but getting above whole numbers, half numbers is always better. Above pivots is better. Uh, so I see that as something that wouldn't be hit today. And the bottom strike would be relatively easy to hit. Uh, well, it's the bottom of the range. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Top one should be a no-brainer. Lots of unfilled gaps lurking below. And at some point, this one's going to get filled. Doesn't look like right now, but at some point it will. NASDAQ futures chopping sideways at resistance. A lot of going nowhere here. If this could clear these highs, well, on a short-term intraday basis, it could make them run toward that high. So could be, short-term scalper long. It gets up here. We'll see, obviously, what the market does. But it's a hell of a run. And long doesn't seem like a great idea, but if you're nimble, I mean, this could run up for 15 minutes toward resistance. So breaking below here, got to avoid below. The Qs. Look at the ETF, the same sideways price action, same unfilled gap. It's at resistance. It just needs to violate that support to get a bias, at least in the short term, that it's going to pull back. Internals, surprisingly, there's been a breadth divergence. So here, and this isn't uncommon when you get a move off of a low that it's that strong for it to make a higher high and the breadth to make a lower high. It's up at this extreme. So some backing and filling or pulling back, for many reasons makes sense. The good thing is the sentiment hasn't reached these upper bands. And historically, even though this is at resistance, if this were to shoot up higher, and then we'd have a lot of confidence that this run is cooked. And we don't cover this that often, but in times of, hey, let me look at a little more of what's going on. This equity put call ratio, it often moves a bit faster, but even that isn't in its upper bands yet. So, looking at the sentiment gauges, they haven't turned, wildly bullish yet, amazingly. And this is one of the main reasons why we use these, because look, the price action is what we trade. And we see something like this, and it's like, this thing's got to go down. And eventually it will. But historically, the best odds of it going down is when breadth and sentiment are in agreement, and they're not yet. That's why we continue to monitor it. You would think that sentiment would be up there, but surprisingly, it's not. With gaps, I'm nervous of a strong down day. Well, then if you see something with a bullish pattern and you want to trade it intraday, well, intraday, that you can get out of something in the blink of an eye. Maybe an option strategy, you can't, but, in a day trading strategy, you certainly can, as long as the instrument is liquid. If you're trading, options, it's going to be a bit slower, maybe the really liquid ones. But look, so with that in mind, Robert, what you're saying, don't hold things overnight, or if you do, smaller positions. All right. Where's my transports? I don't always like looking at the ETF. I must have overwrote. Yeah, I see KRE in here. Must have overwrote it. So yesterday we talked about the fact that the transports, the the Russell both traded over major resistance. That's a big positive. They were leading the way down. They can pull back without violating any significant support. So, intermediate term, that's a plus. KRE regionals, up against the 200. It makes sense. They're going to pull back. And it makes sense for everything should pull back, but it's not yet. Retailing, across the board, so many retailing stocks, the majority of them, different retailers, regardless of what they were selling, gap down and had nasty days. So primarily Walmart was the surprise after being up at new all-time highs, significant gap down, really nasty, ugly gap and wide range red bar. We think the 200 MA or down here should happen. Russell up at the tag the 200. So everything should pull back. It's just a matter of time when it's going to happen. What else? The Dow, almost up to that bearish 180, really nasty. Just a wide range bar 180, very powerful. So before I mentioned a topping tail would have it wasn't a wide range bar, but when you get whether a wide range topping tail bar or a bullish bar, which is range expansion bigger than the others, and then back down again, it's a more potent type of reversal. All right. Interest rates, right? Coming down to support unfilled gap there. Once they get down here, I figure they're going to try and blip up a little bit, and that may be what's required for the markets to start pulling back. Right now, nothing of significance there. The dollar, that's broken down. So, the back of what put pressure on the markets in 2002 as well as now has been broken, right? A rising dollar and rising interest rates. And so now they've rolled over. We'll see how lower they go. And so these things point to what we said a couple of weeks ago. As the 13-week began to roll over, and it was unclear at that time. Let's see if this is a line chart here. There you go. So a few weeks ago, especially in the advisory letter, I pointed this out here, and I was like, this is something, the depth of that pullback. And we talked about, hey, what is it going to do? And it started to roll over again. And this was suggesting at the time that the market believed the Fed was done. And so a positive, it's got to come down a whole lot more before things get really positive. And so keeping an eye on this as we did back here, where it was flat for the longest time, and as it started to rise, at the beginning of 2022, we talked about something bad's going to happen. This thing's going up. We all know what happened at that time. All right. And let's go back and look at what's going on here. Any movement of significance? Nada. Nothing's happening. And we'll see how it unfolds today. So far, pretty boring in a tight little range. So that's it. Take it over, Dan.
There you go. Okay, Robert, sound check. Better now? Hello, can you hear me now? All right, cool, thanks. Yeah, I had two mute buttons here. All right, so what I was saying was on Wednesday, I made the comment that perhaps we just bobble around for 2 more days, which would be boring but good. And then ideally, we want a topping tail. I mean, if we gapped up $2 and then sold off engulfing bar, but we need to build more resistance for sellers to start, taking profits and or shorting. So we're up pulling in. I think it's going to be boring here also. IWM, that was up the most pre-market. No pattern, to do anything here, but it's stronger pre-market. We'll see how that develops. Yeah, I got Z on my list too. Yep, I got an alarm. I think 4120. Where are you? Um, where are you, Z? Well, I'll just set it again. But yeah, Z's on my list as a 123. Let me set a new alarm. All right, earnings. These are open trades. Let's look at earnings first. Beaky. It's in a trading range. Looks like it's opening flat. Nothing to do now. Bravo Juliet. That was quite the upside shakeout. Now, some people ask us, "Oh, how do you know? Well, how do you prevent a breakout failure?" The answer is you don't. Um, you just got to look for the most high probability one with the most clues. And this was a closing breakout that I would have bought over this bar's high. Nasty, yeah. And then, but earnings, right. That's what I'm getting at. I'm just talking about the pattern. And then, we wouldn't have done it anyway because of earnings. But that's 64.50. So today's Friday, 0 DTE day. It's a bearish pattern, no question about it. Look, it's actually a bear flag on the monthly. Wow. That is a bear flag after, a little M top. I think this can go much lower. So let's I was going to say if it takes out the 30-minute high, 0 DTE puts, but that's just a temporary trade. Let's keep an eye on that to short a bounce. Thomas Duckin. Yeah, bottoming pattern. Yeah, I'll put it on the list. All right, back to earnings. Whenever you see multiple decimal points, that's a over-the-counter stock, and that's a nasty gap. I think I said yesterday if it opened flat, it was bullish over yesterday's high, because look, the monthly is a double bottom on support. But now the gap is messing it up. So delete it. Twist. I think this sounds like a bio to me. 30-minute high. I don't know. We'll come back. ATKR 127. Big gap down. Look how it's a sell set up on the weekly. We'll come back to it. GPS. This was a beautiful. Well, here, I always like pointing out no-brainer setups, even in retrospect, just for education. This was a beautiful, beautiful retest with this bottoming tail downside shakeout and to trade as yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a double bottom because momentum's not down enough, but doesn't matter. That's a bullish retest. And then look at this buy setup right here. Controlled pullback to minor support, reversal, gap up. That was beautiful. So now the gap's too big on earnings. Nothing to do with that. No trade. Uh, Beezer Homes. I was so tempted to put this in our advisory letter right on that green bar as a bottoming pattern. Wow, did that work out well? I don't see where it's opening, but it kind of looks flat. Alex ZTO gapping down. I didn't see ZTO on my list over here. All right, so yeah, that's bearish. Put that on the short watch list. We talked about BZH. Uggy. I didn't have this on my list. 2240. There you go. That's a day trade long. 10-minute high. On earnings, unless it's just such a no-brainer, pro gap from consolidation, with a bullish pre-market, then I'd say, yeah, buy 2 or 5-minute high. This one I'd wait 10 minutes, but yeah, Huggy looks good for a day trade if it's opening to 2240. It's kind of whipping around here, but yeah, I like that a lot for a day trade. ETN continuation pattern. Yes, with one caveat, David. It's run a lot from this prior pivot, number one, even though I said one comment. And number two, it looks like it can go to 235, but I think you're going to need the four horsemen to help. I don't think it's going to do it on its own. And, it's up a lot, far from the 20. UEC. Yes, yeah, that looks great. Now that's a better continuation pattern, in my opinion. Why? Because it's closer to this igniting bar. It's held from here to here 50%, and then you got railroad 20 and 50. And is this all-time highs? Well, pretty close. So yes, that for a new trade looks fantastic. I see it printing here like 618, I'm just going to set an alarm at 621. But if you will watch that for us, David, in the green room, that is a beautiful new trade setup. You got your continuation, little small 180 and a strong uptrend. Wow, look at this breakout bar right here. This was a no-brainer to buy over this bar's high, kind of a rising wedge. This is also a fantastic example of looking at your 3 moving averages here and taking off the candlesticks, and you could tell what's going on. Look, see the 20 is flat, 50 rising, 200 flat, and then the candlesticks confirm it. Where did I leave off? Checkpoint. How many times have you all heard me say this year, here's another victim of Biden's new Green Deal? Look at this charge point. There's so many things that are just in friggin' death trends. Despite the billions and billions that the administration plugs into these things to create artificial demand, the market is saying, I don't think so, homie. 127. Now that's a shock gap over a nasty wide range bar, but there's no pattern. I don't know what to do with that. Unless you can tell me you can sell a 0 DTE under yesterday's low, which I seriously doubt there's going to be any premium. This one's a Climo. So this would be a beautiful 50, 30-minute or 15-minute low even. Selling a 50 call spread for today. I'm going to set an alarm 4940. I'm on my laptop today, so I don't have my beautiful 6 screens. So you all will have to help me a little more today. All right. CMP, nasty downtrend, opening flat. I don't see a gap. AMAC getting whacked. Way down here, that's a big gap down, but it's a Wall Street loved stock. I have it here in the middle. Let's see what it does. I'll set an alarm at 144. Even if it sells off at the open, that's actually better. Let it sell, let it go down to 140 here. It's only $2.50 lower. And then that's a better technical place to get to for a reversal. Well, so are you. I don't hold that against you, Alex. Kidding. Do not have your attorney send me a letter that I hurt your feelings. 970. It's a nasty. Look at the monthly. Now this thing looks like it's in a death trend. Looks horrible. All time frames point to down. And I don't know what the news on Clack is, bottom right. I don't know if this is just gapping down on behalf of AMAT or if there's something else going on there, but I'm 527, so that's a beautiful call spread if there's any juice. And I'll even go out to next week on that one. DLB, DLB 80. That's a big old gap down. Let's just watch it, see what it does. Glob up a little bit. It's a bullish gap, 30-minute high put spread. So those are all the earnings things, other than ZTO Alex showed me. Roblox got an upgrade, but nothing to do. There was some news about California voting, maybe something to do with their tax credits on solar stocks. So I actually thought they were sort of going to gap down. But yeah, bottoming pattern. I'm going to keep an eye on SEDG. Dave Franklin. VEZ, a buy? VEZ. Yeah, I've never heard of that symbol. Do you mean Verizon? Perhaps, Frank? VEZ is not a symbol. We're in Verizon yesterday. But yeah, tell me what symbol you're talking about. All right, see, my AMAT alarm went off at 144, but would not touch this right now. Let it settle down. But you see what I said? 140, that would be a great reversal spot. Went down to 142. So buyers, it's a real company. So buyers are stepping up. Now see, that's a big bar right now. In 1 minute, look at the size of this bar on the daily chart. Yeah, Greg. Okay, Verizon. With the market, no, I would not. I would maybe Monday over today's high. I'm not expecting much in the market today, and we're selling off a little bit into the close. It gapped up to yesterday's high, closed with a little topping tail yesterday. I would wait. I'd wait for Monday. Nah. QSR, yeah, I had that on my list yesterday. I did not trigger it, but yeah, that looks higher. But you see it gapping up, coming in. All right, Clack bottom right. Let's see how far it goes. This is still on my call spread list. So look at AMAT, up over $5 already from that 142. Stoled and UEC. David, you didn't tell me. UEC, buddy. Alex, this was on your list. I like yesterday's bottoming tail, so I kept it on my list. I forget where my alarm was, but it went off. Nothing to do now, but it's improving. All right, UEC looks fantastic. David, I asked you to watch it for me, buddy. Um, looks great. UEC. It's 9:32. So Greg, half lot, 5-minute high. What do you think? Or just right here?
Um, I'm going to look at it myself. That's, I think, moving with uranium, which moved up, which is maybe better than this thing, $6 stock.
What's uranium symbol?
URNM, I think.
This one I like, but you have this prior high. It's bullish weekly, monthly, maybe 30-minute high on this one, or
Look
gap
further to
fill.
the left on your UEC. It's got a
Well,
prior
if
high.
yeah, but if I can't see it on my weekly, Greg, then it doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I know. I looked earlier because I said, was it all time? No, that doesn't bother me at all. Are you kidding? That's this 2 years ago? No, it doesn't bother me. All right, UGI. Yeah, yeah. I mentioned pre-market. I liked it if it was opening right here. Um, it's actually up a lot from yesterday's low and the target. I like it, but I don't know about the entry and stop right here. CCJ, 30-minute high again. It's a little farther from the 20 spot. Yes, that looks great. That looks great. Um, spiders coming in upper right. Qs, that's the only problem I have, Sanjay, is I don't want to get caught in these musical chairs. Because if I guarantee you, if well, I can't guarantee anything. Under yesterday's low, the Qs, spot's a total, high beta. But it's surely on its own page and looking fantastic right now, Sanjay. So spot, UEC, I like them both. Let's see if I can do a 170 put spread for next week. Well, and also you don't have to be as concerned with the musical chairs if you're just day trading. So yeah, you can start as a day trade and then see what happens.